Zero. This is tremendous. Well, as they say, you're very hardy people. I've heard that. You're hardy people. We like hardy people. And hello, Iowa, one day from now, we're going to win. Iowa's first in the nation caucuses. We kept you first in the nation. Historic victory, a victory that will echo throughout the country and all around the world. Tomorrow, January 15th, I need each and every one of you to get out. Everybody, you get out, just get out and vote. You got to bring your friend. You know, we say plus 10, so plus 10 or plus 2 or plus 20, but bring them all out because we have to set the stage for November. We have the most corrupt, most incompetent president in the history of our country. He's destroying our country, and we have to get it done quickly. We have to get it done quickly. We have to set the stage, and it really begins tomorrow at 7 o'clock. The caucuses start sharp, but if you could be there at 6:30, they tell me it's better because you have to be there by 7, so get there a little bit early. But it's cold, but it was cold out today, too, and we have lots of people outside that can't get in. Should we let them in? Would anybody like to give up their place and let them in? I know Jim Jordan, I think, would do it because he's such a nice man. Hi, Jim. So dress warmly tomorrow night. And by the way, it's all inside. Everything's inside, but you have to get from the car or whatever you happen to be driving into the set. But it's all indoors, so you're not going to have to worry about that. The caucus will be filled with a lot of great people. I say if you're single, you'll probably meet your future husband or wife. You'll definitely make some friends, and you'll say hello to a lot of people you haven't seen in a while. No, it's really a great scene. When the concept of caucus works, it's great. When it doesn't work, as the Democrats showed you last time, not too good, right? It's not too good. It's a mess. But by the way, they deserted Iowa. You know, they deserted you. They decided to go a different way, which is crazy. I was honored. Jim Jordan called me. It was very important that we stay. He's from a different place, and he felt just the history of Iowa, right? The history of Iowa was very important that it stay here. But nobody had to call me because I made the commitment, and we kept you first in the nation. As long as I have anything to say about it, and that we have a good chance of saying for 4 years, we'll have a lot to say about it, 4 years and beyond. You're going to be first in the nation. So brave the weather and go out and save America, because that's what you're doing. This is really about saving our country. Remember, your caucus location is often different from where you normally vote. So you can find all of the information you need at ia.donaldjtrump, whoever that may be, .com, okay? And with your vote, we're going to defeat crooked Joe Biden. We're going to take back our country. We're going to make America great again. Since 2016, you and I have been in this battle side by side and together, and we've been taking on the entire corrupt system in Washington like no one has ever done before. I had no idea it was this corrupt. It's really bad. It's bad. We got rid of Comey. I did a lot of things. This is a man right there that, no, we did a lot of things. Getting rid of Comey was a great thing. That was a wonderful thing for our country. And lucky we did. We might not be standing here right now. They had some bad plans, but that didn't work out too well for them. And now, look at us. We're leading. By the way, we're leading in the polls by a lot, not just this poll. We're leading nationally. One just came out. We're at 71 to 9 and 11. You ever notice the fake news? They go, Haley is surging. She went from 8 to 11. I went from 66 to 71. And DeSantis went down 2. So she overtook him by 1 at 11. And the story is, Haley surges. I'm at 71. She's at 11. I went up more points than her. And the funny thing, you know, I don't have so many points to gain, right? It's that I don't have the same vast wealth of points to gain. The headline, Haley surges. Trump's doing okay, too. From the beginning, they've been throwing everything at us, the never-ending steam of, and really just a system of high-energy steam. It's hoaxes, it's witch hunts, it's lies and horrendous abuses of power. From Russia, 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 you remember that? Yeah, please sit down. Hey, look, you know what? We have so much time today. There's no football game that anybody wants to watch. There's nothing. We got a lot of time today. Should we do the long version or the short version? Should we do the snake later? Because it's so appropriate. It's so appropriate, right, for what's happening to our country. But abuses of power from Russia, remember that con job? To Ukraine, to defund the police, to their 2020 election rigging scam like our country has never seen before. We did much better in 2020 than we did in 2016. It's pretty amazing. Got more votes than any sitting president in history. Think of that. We lost by a whisker, just by a little whisker. Those printing presses were moving that night. To their war, well, this is the biggest thing we have to worry about, and we have to fight, and we have to watch, and you have to stay there all night and watch that nothing is shipped in late at night. And we got to watch. It's not going to be like with the COVID. It's not going to be like COVID was a bad thing in so many ways, but they use COVID to cheat. They cheat anyway, but they use COVID to really cheat because they had to go a long way to their war on free speech, right up until trying to jail their #1 political opponent, me. My parents never had this in mind for me. They're looking down, they're saying, my son's been indicted 4 times. They didn't know what the word indictment means, neither did I. What does indictment mean? I got indicted more than the late great gangster Alphonse Capone. You ever hear of Al Capone, Scarface? He killed people. If he went to dinner, even with like a guy like Dan Gable, you don't get tougher than Dan Gable. The guy had the greatest wrestler. And even Jim says the greatest in the history of our country. But if he went to work and had dinner and didn't like Dan Gable, by the morning, Dan Gable was gone. Forget it. Al Capone. Al Capone was indicted 1 time, Billy. I've been indicted 4 times because I said the election was rigged. And I was right. Do you ever notice they don't go after the people that rigged the election? They go after the people that question the integrity of the election. Nobody got indicted for spying on my campaign. Nobody got indicted for rigging the election, just for looking into it. Now, we're changing things around. These caucus, I've never seen spirit like we have now. It's more, no, really, and this is a big part of it. They said if they didn't use lawfare, they call it lawfare, they call it weaponization, where you go after your political opponent, you use the Justice Department, the FBI, you go after your political. Do you think this is fun? Actually, do you think it's fun? It's not fun, but we're getting our point across because we have a crooked country in so many different ways. It's so dishonest. We need borders and we need fair elections. Those are the 2 primary things. Everything else can straighten itself out, but we got to have strong borders, so we have to have fair and free elections, or we don't have a country. But these caucuses are your personal chance to score the ultimate victory over all of the liars, cheaters, thugs, perverts, frauds, crooks, freaks, creeps, and other quite nice people. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. But some of them are wonderful people, I'm sure. Remember that one? But some of them are nice. That was good. That was the one piece I should have left out of that first speech, right? But some of them are okay. The Washington swamp has done everything in its power to take away your voice, but tomorrow is your time to turn on them and to say and speak your mind and to vote. And we're going to take this country back. We're going to make it greater than ever before. Once you set foot in that caucus site, the entire world will be listening to you, and I believe that Iowa is going to speak loud and clear. You're first in the nation for a reason. It's important. You're first in the nation. Somebody a long time ago said, this is why we want you to be first in the nation. And maybe you're a little bit different than other places, but you set something. There was something in their minds when they did it a long time ago. You know, when I think of your state, I think of 2 things. I think of farmers, and nobody took better care of the farmers than Trump, no president ever. And I think about politics, very political state, and it's an honor to have kept you there. With your vote in these caucuses, you're going to send a message straight to crooked Joe Biden, his radical henchmen, his weaponized DOJ, and his protectors in the fake news media. Look at all of them back there. There's a lot of them. You know, it's funny, they hate me so much. But they all show up. I can't figure it out. Thing called ratings. You know, we did a town hall on Fox the other night, And I guess it ended up at 7.5 million. The debate had 2.5 million people. They had a debate, two people screaming at each other. They said, why didn't you do the debates? Now they say, it's good that you didn't do it, right? Billy Long, the great Billy Long. Will you stand up, Billy Long? Look at this guy. You're going to show all the people who've been through so much. They've been through the border situation. They've been just giving it away, selling off your jobs, indoctrinating your children, and trampling your values. No matter how hard they try, it doesn't make any difference. We will never give up. We will never surrender. And in the end, we are going to win, win, win. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win all the time. Under crooked Joe Biden, our country is dying. Our country is really in a position it's never been. It's never been in this dangerous a position. We have a chance of being in a World War III with weapons the likes of which nobody has ever seen before. I've seen them because I've seen what they can do. And this would be obliteration. I say this wouldn't be two army tanks running back and forth shooting. This is obliteration. And we have a man that can't put two sentences together. He can't find the stairs. See the stairs? He finishes a speech, which are very short. They're not like our 2-hour beauties, right? They wanted the long version, Jim. Remember that. But, oh, look, front row Joes. You didn't get in the front row today. Front row Joes, they follow me everywhere. We love them. That's how does it feel? Still pretty good. That's good. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. They followed me all over the place, 167 times or something. They've got to be pretty rich people, in all fairness. They go all over. It doesn't matter where. But I stand before you today as the only candidate who is up to the task of saving America from every single Biden disaster, starting on day one. The disaster is what he's done. All he had to do is go to the beach like he always does and leave everything alone. Leave the border alone. We are the safest border in history. It was just announced that last month inflation surged dramatically again, slicing into family budgets and further gutting our middle class. You know, we had the highest inflation, I think maybe ever, but they say in 80 years. I think ever. Energy is up 50% from what it was 3 years ago. Think of that. Rent. People that rent apartments, rent homes, up 35 to 40%. Mortgage rates are from 2% to about 9%. And there's another problem, you can't get the money. Food prices are up 42%. Bacon, I don't know what's going on with bacon. I just had bacon this morning. It was the best bacon I've ever had. There was no fat in it. I said to the hotel, I said, do me a favor, where do you get this bacon? I want to. You see it in New York, you have bacon. It's all fat with a little tiny string of something in there. This bacon was the best, but it should be, right? Because we're in Iowa. So it was good. But bacon is like 3 or 4 times higher. I don't know what that's all about. But the only people getting rich right now are Joe Biden's donors and Nikki Haley's donors. She happens to be a globalist, by the way. I know her very well. Remember, I will never run against our president. Never. Never. He's a great president. He's the greatest president in my lifetime. That's not that good. You know, she's, what, 54, 58, 63? What is she? I have no idea. But I will never run against him, ever. She said this for years. Then she calls a news conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I've decided to run for president. I said, that's not so surprising because I understand Nikki. She can't help herself. I understand her very well, better than anybody. By the way, she's not up to the job, okay? I can tell you that. I don't want to be mean. If I said that about a man, everyone would say, what a great statement. But I'll tell you, from Ron's standpoint, he's definitely not up to the job. I know him very well. I got him elected. He forgot about that. He forgot that he was a 3. He was dead, gone. He forgot that he came to me, tears in his eyes, begging for an endorsement, and I endorsed him because he fought the Russia impeachment hoax number 1 and number 2. 2 hoaxes. They were both hoaxes. But he did, along with 200 other people in Congress. This man was the best of all. Jim Jordan was the best fighter of all. I'd say he was about 7% of what Jim was, but Jim never asked me for anything, you know. He doesn't need anything. I give him automatic endorsements, but he's leading in his district by like 97%. Nobody even runs. He's one of the few people, he never even has somebody running against him. But, so I gave it to Ron. Ron was down by, impossible odds. The election was taking place very soon, I think 3 or 4 days. The nominating process was just about finished. A man named Adam Putnam, he was the Secretary of Agriculture, running for governor for 8 years. He was 8 years as the secretary. He raised $41 million. So he was at 42, and I think Ron was around 3. He was like a 30 or 40 point difference. And he came to me, and I didn't know Adam Putnam, and Adam Putnam never called me. So I wish he did, actually, because I probably would have endorsed him. He was fine, but he never called me. But Ron did, and Ron came over to see me, and he begged me for the endorsement. I gave it to him, and it was like a weapon went off. I hate to use the term nuclear weapon, so I won't use that, okay? Because we're getting too close to that stuff. We don't want to bring up the term, but it's brought up all the time. But it was like a weapon went off, a rocket ship went up. And he ended up winning 3 or 4 days later in a landslide. It was a landslide. Adam Putnam is still saying, what happened? What happened? Because he was already measuring for carpets in the State House. He was getting ready to move in. Then we had to get Ron through, a very highly credible candidate at the time. He turned out to be a crackhead, unfortunately. As you remember, the Democrat, right? He was going to be within the next 15 years, he was going to be a president of the United States. And Ron said, I don't think we can beat him. It was him and Stacey Abrams. They were the 2 hottest politicians in the Democrat Party. And Gillum, remember Gillum? And good-looking guy, everything was perfect. And I did three rallies. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Thank you. That's all right. Go home to mommy. Your mommy's waiting. Go home to mommy. Thank you very much. So young. So young. You know? It's amazing, because that used to happen all of the time. And I don't think it's happened in 2.5 or 3 years. That's the first. And she's so young. So young. So anyway, so young and immature. Thank you very much. Thank you. It always adds excitement, I will say that. Thank you. That's all right. That's why we have America. That's okay. But they'll figure it out. You know, they're fighting oil. They're fighting oil. They're basically saying, let's close up our country because if you notice, China's right now building, China is building actually every week a coal-fired plant. And these people are fighting, and you're going to end up with a country that won't be able to compete if you listen to them. But they'll grow up. Thank you. They'll go up, they'll get older, and they'll understand that it's very important what we're doing. We speak from common sense. You know, we're really the party of common sense. People say, are you conservative? Yes, I'm conservative. We did a lot of conservative things, but we're really not liberal, conservative. We're the party of common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have elections. We want to have low taxes, a strong military. But anyway, so Ron, just to finish the story real quickly, but Ron, I endorsed him, and he went like a rocket ship. And then I did rallies for him, a couple of rallies, 2 or 3. We had tremendous, tremendous rallies, and incredible in Florida. And he still felt he wasn't going to win. I said, I'm telling you, you're going to win. And he ended up winning by 2 points, very little. And the other guy turned out to be a disaster. Thank goodness he wasn't put in. But Ron won. And 4 years later, they said to him, will you run against the president? And he said, I have no comment. He said, I have no comment. I got him in. I got him elected totally. He was down by like 40 points for the nomination, and he was going to definitely lose to their new star, who turned out not to be a star. And when I did that, I don't know, there's something about the lack of loyalty in politics. Now, Nikki also, but to a much lesser extent. I mean, she has at least a right. She got there. I gave her the position, but I gave it to her much more so because I wanted Henry McMaster, who was a lieutenant governor, to be the governor of South Carolina. And he's been a great governor, right, Billy? Great governor. And Henry's done a great job. And Nikki did a good job. She was okay, but she's not right to be president. I know it very well. The wrong thought process, the wrong policy. And honestly, she's not tough enough. She's not tough enough. These are tough people. We're dealing with the toughest people in the world. We're dealing with people that are on their game at a level that you've never seen. President Xi of China, Putin. Putin would have never gone into Ukraine if I were president. If that election wasn't rigged, he would have never, ever, not even a chance. And it was the apple of his eye. And you could take a look at North Korea. Kim Jong-un, very smart, very tough, but he liked me, and I got along really well with him, and we were safe. We were going to have a war with them, and they have a massive nuclear stockpile, possibly as big as anybody. And so we did a great job, but we were disappointed with Ron. It showed tremendous disloyalty. I said, listen, let's hit him. And then I wanted to think of a name for him, and I just sort of said, he's a sanctimonious guy. He's sanctimonious. And I said, Ron DeSanctimonious, and it sort of worked. A lot of people didn't like it at the beginning. Now they love it. You know, they grow on you. Sometimes they grow on you positively or negatively. But he said, and then people would say, sir, you're hitting him very hard. I don't think you should. Why? He's a Republican. I said, I don't care if he's a Republican. They're saying he's a Republican. What the hell difference does it make? The guy says to me, he says that he has no comment. When they say they have no comment, you know what that means, L? That means they're going to run. So we hit him very hard, and by the time he announced, he was over. I think he was over by the time he announced. He said, sir, it's too early. I said, it's never too early. Anyway, so he's not doing well. It looks like he's in 5th or 6th place in New Hampshire. We're doing really well in New Hampshire, by the way. Really well. We're really doing well everywhere. And then people don't know, we go to Nevada. We just had a poll out. We're at 89%, Madam Attorney, 89% in Nevada. Then we go to Nikki Haley's state, South Carolina, where the governor endorsed me, where Lindsay and everybody, I mean, we're just about, everybody's endorsed me almost. And we're leading her by 40 points or 50 points, which is pretty tough to do. And then we come down and we eventually get to Florida. We love Florida. We're leading one-on-one with Ron. I'm at 89 and he's at 11. That's a big difference. And we started, I was slightly ahead in all fairness. You know, people don't know, in Florida, I got more votes by 1.5 million than he did. They talk about his great victory. But he only had that victory because of me. But I got 1.5 million more votes than him in Florida. But they did a poll, and he's not even a factor. So he's really hurt himself, because I think he would have, if he were a loyal person, if he would have waited 4 years, he's young, he's a young guy, he would have, I don't say anybody walks in, because you still have to show some semblance of personality. You have to do some things, right? And so it's never a walk-in, but let's assume he would have gotten my endorsement and he would have been loyal and everything else. But I think the lack of loyalty, a lot of people said when I went after these 2 people and a couple of others, sir, very, you know, highly paid professionals in the back, they said, sir, people don't care about loyalty in politics. I said, I think they do. And when I explained, like, when I explained about loyalty, like as an example, excuse me, with your governor, I gave her, think of it, first in the nation, I gave her ethanol, I gave her everything. But she was lieutenant governor, just like Henry McMaster. And I took Terry Branstad out, and I made him ambassador to China, and she became, because of me, she became governor. Typically, when that happens, when you're appointed governor or senator, you don't do well in the next election. Very rarely do you win. I don't know if you have when you get appointed, you very rarely win. She was losing by 10 points, and she called me, would I do a rally for her? I ended up doing 2 rallies and giving her a very big endorsement, and she ended up beating a very rich, I don't know who this guy is, All they said is he's a rich, very good-looking farmer. Well, those are good credentials for Iowa, right? Rich, good-looking farmer. And he was going to win. And I came in and I saved her. But then I gave her, First in the Nation gave her everything. Really good. And I figured, you know, again, I don't do quid pro quo. But when I came in and I announced, I said, by the way, are you going to be endorsing me? Sir, I'd rather remain neutral. I said, wow, you're going to remain neutral? Wait a minute, I gave you the position. Not that one thing has to do with the other, but I gave you that position. Yes, sir, I'd rather remain neutral because I have to protect First in the Nation. But I gave you First in the Nation. Then she said, well, you have to understand, I'm the governor, and I want to be able to travel with each and every candidate that's running against you, and you too, sir, and I want to campaign with you. I said, you mean you'd campaign with other candidates? Yes, sir. I said, I don't want to ever see you on my campaign again. And that was it. And that was so I don't blame her for then picking somebody, because we wouldn't let her go to any rallies or anything. But here's the thing I'm most proud of. She went from the most popular governor in the United States in 2 weeks to the least popular governor. She's the least popular governor in the United States. But I just thought it was very disloyal. You know, I mean, I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And that happens in politics. What? What is? Oh, thank you very much. That's so cute. Nikki and Crooked Joe are both backed by warmongers and left-wing globalists, Wall Street, millionaires and billionaires who crave to destroy the MAGA movement. People are not happy with MAGA because MAGA's taking over. MAGA's, you know, when you hear the fake news when they say, well, MAGA represents 44% of the Republican. No, MAGA represents 95% of the Republican Party. Whenever you hear this stuff, and it's an amazing thing. When Joe Biden gets up and he's so angry, we're going to fight MAGA. And I say, what does MAGA mean? He has no idea. You know what it means, Joe? It means make America great again, right? It's a simple thing. No harm intended. Probably the greatest phrase in the history of politics, right? MAGA. I almost changed it to CAG, Keep America Great, right? But it didn't seem to have the magic. There'll never be anything like MAGA, Make America Great Again. And then after he ran the country, I couldn't use CAG because America right now is not a great country. We're laughed at all over the world. Unlike Nikki, I'm working for you. And, you know, I'm working for you. And she's working for a lot of other people that don't necessarily love our country so much. You're going to find out a lot about her in the next short period of time, but she's starting to fade as people find out, and she's got some really bad money behind her. She's got Democrats financing her in New Hampshire. She's got Koch, who's a globalist, total globalist. He's fighting her. It's funny, he said he had the best years he's ever had under the Trump administration. He actually made a statement. Charles Koch, David was a friend of mine. Charles, I don't really know Charles Koch. I saw him interview, he had a broken leg and he had Bermuda shorts on. I said, if I had a broken leg, I wouldn't be wearing Bermuda shorts during an interview. I thought it was the worst interview I've ever seen. Under the Trump administration, you were better off, your family was better off, your neighbors were better off, your communities were better off, and our country was better off. We were never stronger than we were just 3 years ago, energy independent. America was stronger, richer, and safer, and more confident than ever before when I sat behind the Oval desk, that beautiful Oval Office with the Resolute desk. Do you ever hear of the Resolute desk? The most, you know, when you become president, they give you a choice of 7 different desks. They're all beautiful. But the Resolute is the Resolute. It's the beauty. Ronald Reagan, a lot of great people, a lot of great presidents, a lot of great presidents. Resolute. As president, I gave you the largest tax cuts in history and virtually eliminated the estate tax to protect your family farms. I don't know if you know that. If you love your children, I always say this, if you love your children, you have to vote for Trump. If you don't love your children, then that doesn't mean what I just said, because you shouldn't leave it to them. If you don't love your children, and then don't give it to them. Does anybody in this room not love their children? Who? I know you love your children. You love your children. Not too many hands. I've never seen a hand go up. Then everybody has to vote for me because I gave you tax cuts. You know what was happening is you'd leave the farm to the kids. The government comes along, they assess it. They put a value on it. You have to go out and borrow large amounts of money. And typically within 3 or 4 years, you end up losing the farm because it's not such a cash business, but it's a great value business. Valuable, beautiful farm, and what it stands for, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful life. But you'd leave it and they'd lose it. And they'd lose it in foreclosures to the banks. And we took that out. You no longer have estate tax to pay on your farms and small businesses. So I think it's great. I think it was very good. So now we have to defend our tax cuts from Joe Biden, who wants to pass the largest tax hike in American history. He wants to terminate the tax cuts given to me by you. That includes the estate tax, or as we call it, the death tax. I will make the Trump tax cuts permanent and cut taxes for families and farmers even more. We have a substantial hit coming, positive hit coming. We're going to reduce them even further. Now, I have to tell you that when I did the tax cuts, they were the largest ever in the history of our country, bigger than Reagan's tax cuts years before. He did the biggest up until that time. We topped it. And everyone said, oh, well, the income, we're not going to have the income. We ended up taking in almost 100% more income, and we created the strongest economy in history. So with smaller taxes, people were doing much more business, and we were actually taking into the Treasury more money. It's an amazing stat, you know, so people have to know it. But starting on my first day back to the Oval Office, I will end Joe Biden's inflation nightmare, rescue our economy, and we will do one thing that's going to work very quickly and fast. Drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. And also on day one, I will seal the border and I will shut down the invasion of our country. It's an invasion. This isn't a normal situation. This is an invasion. Thank you. 3 years ago, we had the most secure border in U.S. history, by far. We built 561 miles of border wall. You know, if there's a little piece, if there's a nail from a wall that was there 75 years ago, a little bit of a nail left from the rust, or if there's a 2x4 that's rotted out laying on the ground someplace, they say, that's not a border wall, that's a renovation. No, it's not a renovation. It was, you'd see little areas where you'd have some dead wood rotting on the ground for 40 years. We built over 500 miles, much more than I said I was going to do. And then we had an additional 200 miles that we were getting ready to put up. We could have done it in 3 weeks. He could have done it. And they decided not to do it. And that was a terrible thing because our border is a mess. But they actually wanted open borders. That was the amazing thing. But we got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. You know, when we talk about, I said, I'm going to charge Mexico for the wall. This is much more expensive. There was no legal mechanism that Mexico could give us money to build a wall for us. But there was legal precedent for them giving us soldiers. And I went to the president and I said, you're going to have to give us a lot of soldiers. Why? Because they're coming through your country and they're hurting us very badly. No, I won't do that. I won't. And I liked him a lot. He said, but would you speak to my representative? So they came to Washington, a delegation. They saw me. The State Department was heading it. And a woman, very good woman, but a lousy negotiator, to be honest with you, a very quality woman. She loved Mexico. She worked on Mexico for 25 years. She said, sir, they will never give you that. We've been trying to get that for 25 years. I said, oh, I'll get it, 100%. I said, what else do you want? And we got Tom Homan involved, who's great, you know, central casting. I think he's central casting. He was great. And we got our Border Patrol people, Brandon Judd and all of these people. These are incredible people. They actually want to do their job. They have a much easier job by not doing their job, but they want to do it. And I said, give me a list of the top 10 things, and Title 42, everything. They gave me a list that one of the things is remain in Mexico. You have to remain in Mexico. You can't come into our country. So I had a list of 10 things. Catch and release in Mexico. We called it catch and release in brackets in Mexico. We have catch and release in our country that nobody would ever leave. So they gave me these things, and this very handsome man shows up representing the president of Mexico. And he said, chief, top guy, and he said, sir, you've asked for some things that, of course, are ridiculous. Of course, yes, you'll give them to us. 100% you'll give them to us. No, we will not. I said, First thing we need 28,000 soldiers, free of charge. No, he goes, why would we do that? We're not going to give you 28,000. Sir, this is ridiculous. I said, no, 100% you're going to give them to us, 100%, I have no doubt. Then I want to have a remain in Mexico policy where people can't come into our country. They have to stay in your country until we vet them. And he said, no, we won't do that. We've never done that. We won't do that. Yes, you will. 100%. I'm telling you, 100%. And he started getting confused. He's saying, like, then we did the problem where very sick people are coming into our country. So we had, as you know, we have a very specific bill that was passed years ago to keep people that are sick. We don't want to catch disease from people that sadly are not feeling so great, and various other things that were just as bad. And I had 10 of them. I said to the Border Patrol, I said to Brandon Judd, give me a top 10 list. And he gave me a top 10. And he smiled. He said, you know, they've been after this for years. They haven't been able to get 1/2 of one. So, because, you know, every country out negotiates us because we have stupid people running our country for the most part. When you look at what China did, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars. Nobody before me, nobody took in 10 cents from China. So I said, no, this is what I want. And he tells me now, I said, here's the story, sir. I'm signing before me a bill. And if you don't have this approved before the end of this meeting, where we get 28,000 soldiers free of charge, and all of the other things stay in Mexico. We called it Remain in Mexico. Isn't that a nice title? Remain in Mexico. Sounds simple, but it's very complex for them, not for us. I said, then I'm going to sign this. And this says that we are going to put on Mexico a 25% tax or tariff on every car. You know, they stole 32% of our car industry. I don't know if you know that, Jim. 32% of our car industry has been taken out of the United States. It's made in Mexico. They have factories that you wouldn't believe. They go miles long, bigger factories than what we have. They stole it over the years. Not with me. I stopped it. I was going to put a charge of if they make a car in Mexico, sell it in the United States, I was going to put a 30% tariff on it, and they decided not to build those particular factories. But nobody else does that stuff. So I said, here's the story. You're going to either do it or I'm going to put a 25% tax on every single product coming into the United States from Mexico. And that'll be far more money than the money that we're talking about. And he said, sir, may I make a phone call, please? Do you know the sign of a choker? It's when they start grabbing their neck because they can't breathe. Dan Gable never choked. He doesn't know what I'm talking about because he didn't choke. That guy was a winner. He's only like 150, I think 150-1. I don't know. I think he had COVID for the one or something. I don't know what the hell. But the greatest guy, even Jim Jordan, who was an All-American, 3-time All, he said, nope, Dan was the greatest of them all. Do you still say that? That's pretty good, Dan. I mean, it's not chopped liver here, right? But anyway, so I said, all right, come on, you have 5 minutes. Just call up the president. And he walks back. Sir, on behalf of the president of Mexico, it would be my great honor to give you 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Give you Remain in Mexico. Give you catch and release in Mexico. The guy's going like, and we got it all. And we had the safest border in the history of our country. It was pretty amazing, and it was pretty easy. Under Biden, the USA has become a dumping ground to the world. And speaking of Mexico, you know, Biden's people went to see them 2 days ago. Mexico said, we want $5 billion just to talk. I said, what? They want $5 billion to talk. And you know what our guy said? We'll consider it. These are the worst. These are the worst people. And it's not even like bad. They're stupid people, okay? They're stupid. They're stupid. In New York City last week, American school children were kicked out of class so that the school could be turned into a migrant camp. And think of this, a migrant camp. Biden puts America last. I put America first. Our border is so important, so important. Now, I do something, and because it's sad, we don't have a lot to do, okay? But boy, we're going to have a lot to do tomorrow. And you have a lot to do today to talk to your friends, right? Tomorrow's the big day, but we have a little time. Does anybody want to hear the snake? You want it? Takes about, okay. Because I think it's so appropriate. Jim Jordan's never heard this before, I don't think. But it's so appropriate. And it has to do with people coming into your country. It has to do with who they are. You know what you're getting. We know what we're getting. We're getting terrorists. We're getting jailbirds. We're getting guys that were major drug lords coming into our country, staying here. And they're not going to be school teachers. They're not going to be innocent people. They're going to cause tremendous harm and death. And so this is called The Snake. And this was an old rock and roll song, but, you know, amended somewhat, to be honest. Probably every word is amended, almost, by me. But I think it's very instructive, and I think it's very important, actually. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," cried the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, "Thank you, ma'am," the snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." The snake, that's our border. We're taking in people from prisons. We're taking in people from mental institutions. We're taking in murderers and drug lords. We're taking in people that are very sick with diseases that will be spread all over our nation. We're doing the wrong thing for our country. It's going to be very hard to recover from that, but we're going to start on day one with deportation. Okay? Does that make sense, by the way? Does that make, right? Is there anyone in the room that doesn't get it? Because if you don't, please leave. We don't. You're hopeless if you don't get it. That's what's happening to our country. That's what's at the snake. Just remember it. As soon as I take the oath of office, I'll terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. And, you know, it's not a nice thing to say. It's a tough thing to say. But remember, Dwight Eisenhower, if you actually know, he's a pretty good president. And when he was president, he was very much into exactly that. They had a big border problem, and he'd take people, and they'd just drop them on the other side of the border, but they'd drop back. And then he realized that you had to take them away, and they'd fly them 3,000 miles down into deep South America. And generally, they would never come back. But he was very tough on deportations, and we're going to have to, because what's happening to our country is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. We can't have 15, 16, 18 million people. I mean, they're taking over our schools. They're taking over our hospitals. You go to a hospital, and you can't, and you know, you want to take care of people. They're people, whether they're American people, but it's not sustainable. It's no good. It's not sustainable. Our people are suffering greatly. In Manhattan, you have thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people poured into New York, and they're living on Madison Avenue. They're staying on Fifth Avenue. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And in all due respect to the mayor of New York, he's fighting it as much as he's going to fight it. He's fighting a criminal element, a sick element. He's fighting an element of people that have no idea what they're doing to our country, or they do have an idea, and that's even worse, because if they did, they would know that they're destroying our country. Ron DeSanctimonious and Nikki Haley will never secure our border, and they'll never come close to it. It's only words. DeSanctis, that's the abbreviation. I like that, because you can only say DeSanctimonious. It's good, but you can't say it too many times. And if you look, it's really rather brilliant, I must say. The best might be Pocahontas. You know, somebody said, what's your best? Pocahontas was good, you know. I have Indian blood, 1,014th. I have Indian blood. She got her jobs by being a minority, right? She got into Harvard because she was a minority. She got everything. And then she met Trump. And we came up with the name Pocahontas, and she told her friend, he's killing me with that name. Then they said, you have to apologize. You have to apologize for what you're doing with her. And I did. I got up and I did. No, I did apologize. I apologize. I'd like to apologize to Pocahontas, the real Pocahontas, for what I've... DeSantis did not introduce a single major piece of border security legislation in his entire time in Congress. He had no idea. He couldn't care less about it. And you know, one thing with a politician, this would be true with me also, but I was from borders from day one. We did so well with borders that in the 2020 election, it never came up. And I used to tell my people, I want to talk about borders. They say, sir, they're not interested. I did such a good job that it wasn't a point of conversation, but we still got millions of more votes than we did the first time. But I'm looking at a man in the back. I tell you what, I watched Ron DeSanctimonious getting ready to speak about 6 months ago. He was on a stage with your governor, and your very loyal governor, who's now the least popular governor in the country. And they were getting ready to speak, and it was very interesting. Two young men, they looked like they came out of the Wharton School of Finance. Very handsome guys, obviously from Iowa. He was standing back, and somebody was introducing him. And do you remember this? And they walked up, and they took the podium like this. They were the coolest cats I've ever seen. They weren't like sneaking up, right? They walked on the stage, just lifted everything up, and they just walked off with it, two guys. And the governor was screaming, you took our podium. And DeSanctimonious is screaming, my podium, my podium. They're standing there with that. And they walked off. And then if you watched it a little longer, you see them, they walked around, and you could see them backstage. They just stole the podium. They took it away. I'm dying to find those two guys because I'd love to shake their hand. I don't know if they're in the room. Are they in the room? I don't know. Nobody knows who they are. It was one of the coolest acts I've ever seen in politics. So if you would spread the word, I've never done this before, spread the word. I have to find, I said, I'm going to Iowa, I have to find those two guys, okay? So please look for them. Madam Attorney General, you can do it better than anybody if you put the full force, if you do what they do to me. They have the full force of the Justice Department and against the political opponent of a guy who can't speak well. So if you could do that, I want to find those two people, and I hope you don't prosecute them. They did nothing wrong. Likewise, Nikki Haley opposed my border wall. Do you know she opposed the wall very strongly? She was totally against it, which tells you where she's coming from. She condemned my strong border policies, and in 2016, she stabbed the Republican Party in the back by siding with a gentleman named Barack Hussein Obama. Remember Rush Limbaugh? He goes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rush. I'm talking about Barack Hussein Obama. Barack, emphasis on Hussein Obama. He was a piece of work. We gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Remember that? That was great. He was very brave. He fought a hard battle. That last couple of years, he fought a hard battle. But Barack Hussein Obama, she sided with Barack Hussein Obama against me on a thing called the Trump travel ban. And the travel ban meant we want to keep people from terrorist countries out of the United States, if you don't mind. And she fought me on it. I said, what the hell is she doing? She was in a different position. But she fought me on it. I wasn't too happy, but I did want to make Henry the governor, so sometimes you do things. She even said illegal aliens were not criminals. Ron and Nikki also want to gut Social Security and Medicare for seniors. Now they're changing their tune, but if they were, it's not going to happen, by the way. First of all, they're both getting killed by Biden in the polls. And I'm beating Biden in every single poll in every single state. So you're not going to do it. Nikki had one rigged poll a long time ago, like 3 months ago. One poll that showed she was up by like 11 or 12 points. And it was a rigged poll. I know the polling group very much. Best poll you can buy. And because they're just as dishonest as these people back here. They're pretty dishonest. So what happens, she uses that to a fare thee well, but she loses every time. She loses in every state. She loses to everybody. And she's really not much of a Republican. She's certainly not MAGA. DeSantis voted 3 times to raise the retirement age on Social Security to at least 70, 3 times. And Nikki Haley says the retirement age of 65 is, quote, her words, way too low. You don't hear that from Trump. Because we have so much money underfoot. We have liquid gold more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. We were number 3 or 4 when I first started, 3 or 4 in oil production. And by the time I got out, you have to see this graph, Saudi Arabia, Russia, sort of going a little bit up, and then we're down here, and we're like a rocket, you know, it's like, psh, and we were way number 1, and we're energy independent, but we would have been energy dominant within a few months. We would have been making so much money, we would have started paying off our debt. We would have reduced taxes still further. And that's where we could do so much. And we can also do a lot of cutting. We can also do, is that Nigel Farage, by the way? Oh, you stand up, will you? I'm just looking at this handsome guy. He's been a backer of mine from day one. A thing called Brexit, very non-controversial. And you've been right, they haven't implemented too well, but you've been right. No, we're big fans. Thank you, Nigel. It's really an honor to have you here. Great. You look great. I love these suits. You know, they know how to dress over there. We don't know how to dress like they do. Thank you. Great honor, man. Nikki Haley even supported Rhino Paul Ryan's 2011 plan to destroy Medicare, and the very same plan that led Democrat television ads showing Republicans wheeling Granny off the cliff. Remember the Paul Ryan, Granny off the cliff? Well, DeSantis loves Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan really hurt Fox, although they did very well the other night with their wonderful town hall. Yeah. Thank you very much. But he's a big Paul Ryan fan. Paul Ryan was a disaster as Speaker. You know, when Nancy Pelosi was there, she had subpoenas stacked up on both sides of her desk, and any congressman could walk in and just take one. With Paul Ryan, he had no subpoenas. Congressmen had to go in and beg them, say, Paul, we need it. It's so bad. No, come back and see me in 2 weeks. Come back. He would never. I don't think he issued one subpoena in all the time. And with crazy Nancy, she's crazy. And by the way, I offered her 10,000 troops for January 6th, and I did that 3 or 4 days in advance. And now they've terminated, you know, they've destroyed all of the evidence in that J6 committee of thugs and bad people. But we offered her 10,000. If she would have used 500, you wouldn't have had, because that was a very tiny fraction of the, could be 1 million. It was biggest crowd I ever spoke before. A tiny fraction, you wouldn't have had a problem at all, but she turned it down. And she is the reason that you had that problem. She turned it down, and the mayor turned it down, and the mayor turned it down in writing. She said, no, we're not going to do that. And she said she didn't like the look. I said, look, if they don't want to do it. And she's in charge of security, by the way. I'm not. The president is not. The Speaker of the House is in charge of the Capitol of security, which a lot of people don't know because you don't get the facts. And peacefully and patriotically was not even mentioned. You know, whenever they talk about my speech, they leave the words peacefully. It was called peacefully and patriotically. But Paul Ryan was a disaster, a total disaster, a real rhino. I call him a super rhino. And unlike Ron and Nikki, we will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. We're not going to hurt our seniors. We're not going to do it. We have so many other things we can do. Nikki Haley also supported a 23% national sales tax. So you go out and buy something, and how is that on the middle class? And how about lower income people? The whole thing is ridiculous, and she fought it really hard. She wanted it and fought for it really hard. In short, radical left Democrats would chew her up and eat her alive. And what they're doing now is they're supporting her in New Hampshire, and Koch is supporting her, who's just nothing but a super rhino globalist version. Ask yourselves, who does the radical left and the Washington swamp fear more, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSanctimonious, or President Donald J. Trump. I can tell you right now. I didn't even used to answer their phone calls. When Coke would call up, I say, forget it, because I thought he was so bad for our country. The corrupt establishment knows that if you put me back in the White House, their reign is over. It will be over, and America will be a free nation once again. We are not a free nation. Joe Biden and his henchmen are so desperate to stop us that they're weaponizing law enforcement for high-level election interference. They've never done this before. We've never done it. It's done. It's done a lot in third world countries, banana republics. They've never done this. Joe Biden is a threat to democracy, big threat to democracy, for two reasons. Number one, he's incompetent. And number two, he's surrounded by people that aren't incompetent. They're actually very dangerous, and they're very smart, and they have energy, and they can figure out how to walk off a stage, you know. But he's a threat to democracy for many reasons. This is only happening because we're leading big in the polls. You know, if I wasn't running, or if I was in fourth place or fifth place or seventh place, you notice a lot of people have dropped out. Sloppy Chris Christie just dropped out. And if we weren't doing so well with the general public, I mean, honestly, our polls here are great, but our national polls are even much more substantial. And if we weren't doing that, I wouldn't have been indicted. They wouldn't have indicted me. They indict you because they're still fighting my 2016 win. People in Congress that are fighting here. He challenged the election, Billy, right? He challenged the election. How dare we have to indict him? He challenged the election. They talk about slates. I had nothing to do with slates, but patriots had to do with slates. And they indict him. Thomas Jefferson did slates. They've been slates all over. On Alabama, which I won, I think, by 45 points in 2016, even more now. But Alabama, they said, I cheated on Alabama. We won by 45, and they challenged it. They challenged it. The same way they're challenging. It's such a disgrace what's going on. It is a two-tiered system of justice, and we have to get our Justice Department back, because you're not going to have a country anymore. You can't have it. At least I have a voice. When they indict me, I can explain what the indictment is, like the boxes hooks. I have presidential records. I have a authorized bill from 1978 or so that allows me to do exactly what I did. The New York Times did a story. Please, 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 Mr. President, please, may we have those papers? And then they said that's the only thing they have the right to ask. Now, Biden has about 15 or 20 times more, and he has them from when he was a senator and a vice president. He doesn't come under the Presidential Records Act. He doesn't have that protection. And watch what happens. They'll say he was okay, and he made it totally impossible to get. He's got papers under his Corvette in the garage, right? You know, sitting under on the wet floor on the Corvette. He thinks the Corvette's the greatest thing. Let's find out what country gave him that Corvette, because he takes a lot of different things. But you look at that hoax. I mean, you know, it's very interesting when it was announced, because they came after me. Then it was announced that, ladies and gentlemen, it's just been announced that President Biden has got thousands of classified documents. Do you believe this? And some people were saying, I was watching that fake news CNN. They're right there. Look, the camera just went off. The light just went off. The red light, I'll put it back on. So now I'm watching fake news. And the announcer, the person, fake tapper, I think it was, said, oh no, he did it again, meaning me. Because if he's got them, they're not going to do anything about it. But if I've got them, they want to, you know, they want to bring back the death penalty, bring back the electric chair out of retirement. But the new, and it's true, if I weren't leading, or if I weren't a factor, or if I wasn't in the race, none of this would be happening. I'd probably be having a nice time right now. But I'm having a better time being with the people of Iowa. I actually, believe it or not, I enjoy this. I enjoy it. There's got to be something a little wrong there, because I enjoy it. I could be right now in one of the most beautiful places in the world, someplace having a great time, but I have a better time right here. I'd like it to be a little bit warmer, but you know what? I'll tell you, you get around pretty well, because we didn't know, would anybody show up today? They have people that can't get in, and I think that's going to happen tomorrow night. Hopefully, more importantly, Jim, tomorrow night that's going to happen. But in the new the new Gov poll, it's called YouGov, very respected. It's Trump at 69, just came out 2 minutes ago. DeSantis at 14, and Haley at 12. And we're up big in Iowa likewise. We're really up big. I don't want to talk about it too much. I'd like you to leave this place saying, I think we're about 1 point down, because that way you're going to vote. We're 1 point down. It's going to be tough. We all have to get out and vote. So I'm not telling you that we're 44 points up. But the higher we're up, the higher we go, the better a signal. We send a good signal to New Hampshire, but the better a signal we send in November that we're taking our country back. So it's really important that, no matter what the polls say, no matter if they're way up, they are, but you got to get out and vote. We're also dominating Biden in the general election, while Biden is clobbering Nikki Haley. She's killing Nikki Haley in the polls, and she's also beating DeSantis in the polls. Haley has lost 20 points in head-to-head polls against Biden in just the last month. I don't know what's coming out about her, but she's lost. She's gone way down in the polls against Biden. And I sort of believe in polls. You know, I only talk about polls if they're good for me. I never talk about them if they're bad. I say, ladies and gentlemen, there's a new poll. You can bet it's going to be good. If it's a bad poll, I just don't talk about it, right? I mean, you know. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election of 2020, and we are not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. We're not going to allow it. We're just not going to allow it. We're not going to, because if they do it, if they get away with the kind of things, they didn't get legislative approval, they go to a legislate. They go into one of the big legislatures. I could name 10 of them. And they get turned down. And then they come down, they do it anyway. But much more than they even asked for. So many things. You take a look at Truth to Vote. We have tens of thousands of people stuffing the ballot boxes. You take a look at the 51 intelligence agents. 51 intelligence agents saying the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation. They say that made a 10-point spread if the people would have known the truth about the laptop from hell. It's amazing. They cheat in any way they can. If the Biden DOJ gets away with this interference, then it won't stop with me. The weaponization of law enforcement against Republicans is never going to end. Remember, the advantage I have is that when they indict me, I can explain to people, because I have a big audience, and I can explain. But if I'm a congressman or even a senator and I get a subpoena to go to a grand jury, you're dead. Politically, you're dead. You can't explain it. I can sit here in front of these big audiences with all those crazy cameras back there, and I can explain it, and people can make up their mind. And they made up their mind like 85% that it's a witch hunt hoax. It's just a continuation of Russia, Russia, Russia. And that includes local DAs, and that includes attorney generals, because they're all, you saw the Fannie Willis. You saw that deal? Her boyfriend, she gave him $1 million to go get Trump, right? And then they go on vacation, spending the $1 million they're going on cruise lines. I told my wife, I'd like to take you on a vacation like that, but I can't afford it. It's too expensive. No, they're going on Norwegian cruise lines. I mean, that's something. But the nice thing, it gets exposed. Eventually, it gets exposed. It's a beautiful thing. See, when a system works, it's a beautiful thing. But she's been exposed. I can't imagine they can continue on with that case. She wanted to indict senators. She wanted to indict Lindsey Graham. He did nothing wrong. He just wants to make sure elections are good. But they had a list of people they wanted to indict, like 48 people over, and these are patriots. A woman, 84 years old, standing with the American flag like this, and they indict her. These are sick people. These are sick. And then they find out it's a fraud, and she's filtering money to her boyfriend. And I mean, big money. And he never did a case before. He never did a felony case. He never did a case before. Other than that, he's extremely talented. Every time the radical left, they should drop that Georgia case. They should drop the boxes hoax. Well, if they let him off on the boxes hoax, he has 10 times more. That guy had 50 years worth of classified information. And Dick Durbin, a senator, Democrat senator, when he heard that he took the information as a senator out of the SCIF, he said, there's no way he did that. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. Then, of course, he, came back and said, well, it's not that bad. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it truly a great badge of honor, because I'm being indicted for you. I never even think about it any other way. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom, because I will never let them take away your freedom. We have to straighten out our country. They want to silence me, because I will never let them silence you. Happy. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way. Thank you very much. Here I am. So we're thrilled to be joined today by an incredible group of patriots, including a very special guest who some of you know, and I was very impressed with him. He ran in the primary. I thought he was just outstanding, and he's got an incredible record. Really, as a businessman, made a tremendous amount of money, very respected in the world of business. He then ran for governor of North Dakota, and he won. Got an incredible wife, incredible. And I'd like to ask them both up here, Governor Burgum, Mrs. Burgum of North Dakota. Doug, come on up, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please.
Well, thank you, President Trump. It's so amazing to be here with all of you. So grateful to be with everybody in Iowa. And for Catherine and I, it's always a special time to be down in Iowa, because as we were just saying, it's great to be here, grateful for all of you to be out here, and grateful for what you're going to do tomorrow. But Catherine and I especially love coming down to Iowa, especially on a day like today, because we come down here to warm up. But 4 years ago, I was speaking on behalf of President Trump at the Iowa caucuses in Sioux City. And today, I'm here to do something that none of the other presidential primary candidates have done. And that's endorse Donald J. Trump for the President of the United States of America. I've had an opportunity to have a front row seat. I've seen President Trump and what he's been able to do. I've seen it as a business leader, and I've seen it as a governor. I've seen the difference that President Trump can make. Because remember, when I first took office, President Obama was still president. Yeah, and trying to work with his administration was a disaster. Then President Trump took office, and everything changed. States like Iowa, states like North Dakota, heartland states, we were respected. We had a friend and a partner in the White House who understood us and who wanted to see our states succeed versus being regulated out of business. Now, I've had a chance as governor to see what the world is like under Joe Biden. And America needs an 180-degree change in the direction of where Joe Biden has taken us. Joe Biden's been wrong on the economy, he's wrong on energy, and he's wrong on national security. Biden's policies are empowering our enemies, and they hurt America. Biden's inflation has raised the cost of food that you put on your table. It's raised the cost of gas you put in your car. That's what happens when we put someone in the White House like Joe Biden, unlike President Trump, but we put someone in the White House who's never created a job in the private sector. What a contrast to President Trump. President Trump protected our borders. He cut red tape like no president has ever done before. He passed the largest tax cuts in the history of America, and he supercharged our economy. And not only that, you know how he did that? He not only delivered, as the one president delivered energy independence, and as someone who leads an energy state, I know what that means. When he's in the White House, he'll deliver energy dominance. Under President Trump, America was safe and prosperous, and tomorrow when you caucus, you have an opportunity to send a message to the nation and send a message to the world that Donald J. Trump will make America great again. Thank you very much, Iowa.
Wow, thank you very much. It was an honor. Really, if you watched him perform, it was like nobody else. He just has a great record in everything he's ever done. So on behalf of the Trump family, we thank you both very much. Very much. Thank you. Also with us, Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird, who's a courageous warrior. Thank you, Brenna. Incredible. I think you're the most popular politician right now in Iowa. Although I'd say Big Matt. Matt, stand up. Big Matt is right there, too. Matt Whitaker, former Attorney General. State Representative Brooke Bowden. Brooke, thank you. Great job, Brooke. Thank you very much. And State Senators Julian Garrett. Julian. Thank you, Julian. One of the earliest endorsers from 2016 and even 2015. Sherilyn Westrick. Sherilyn. Thank you. And the earliest endorser in the whole country, the Marlboro Man. These guys are the Marlboro Men. I'm telling you, I don't know if you're allowed to do that anymore with the cigarettes. I guess you can't. But he is to me, he'll always be. He was the first person in the whole country that endorsed me. I said, who is that guy named Brad Zahn from Iowa? He keeps endorsing me, and I haven't even announced I was running. So he endorsed me long before I ran. He said, that guy from New York should be president. And he's a great guy and an incredible person. He loves your state, and he loves our country. Brad Zahn. Look at this guy. Look at this. Come on. Say something.
Well, I'm proud to say I'm the first person to endorse the best president of my lifetime, the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you. Oh, he's got that look. He's got that look. Thank you very much. Great guy. Also, members of Congress, some really tremendous friends. Derek Van Orden. Derek, thank you very much. Great job you're doing, too. Great job. Really fantastic. And a man I'm a little prejudiced because I've known him well. He's a friend of mine. He's a warrior. Derek, would you say? He's a warrior like few others. Jim Jordan and his wife, Polly. Where's Polly? His wife, Polly. Polly. And by the way, Polly, you did produce, with all of his wrestling, you did produce an all-American wrestler. One of your children, at least one, but they're good wrestlers. We're not going to wrestle any of them, but he's an all-American, so congratulations on that. That's incredible. That's incredible. And former congressman and another great friend of mine. This guy is the greatest auctioneer that I've ever heard. I've heard some pretty good ones, right? You feel like doing something, Billy? Come on up here, Billy, real fast. Come on. Come on. This guy is, and he's a great guy. Billy Long, everybody. He would take over a room. Wait till you hear this. Now, don't get nervous, Billy. See, most people say, oh, no, no, no. He says, yes, I didn't know this. That's good. Take it over.
All right, now we're going to auction an American flag to be flown over the United States Capitol. And just get me your information when you're done. Well, surely you've got some kind of a campaign deal they could write the check to, don't you? All right, hey, and who got $1,000? Yep, now who get $500 for 5, 600, 7, you will buy 700, 7, you will buy 8, 9, and 9, 9, 9. Yep, $1,000 bill, $5, 11, Hit 10 here, 11. Get that satisfied look off your face. You're out. 1100, 12. Hit 1100 here, 12. You will buy 12, 12 a half, all done, 1200 a half. Sold it right there, $1,100. If you want to see something funny, Google Billy Long auction Stanley Cup, because the guy that bought it is standing to my left in the Rose Garden. I auctioned off the St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup for $65,000. There's your buyer. Don't you love this guy? Good.
That's pretty good, isn't it? It doesn't get better. He's the top guy. And thank you very much. Boy, no nerves either, Billy, huh? No, most people would say, no, I'd rather not do that. He said, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't think he was going to do that. But it's really fantastic. And another man who's a friend of mine, he's another one I'm not going to mess around with. He's Knox County, Tennessee. Do you know Glenn Jacobs? Goes by the name of Kane. Kane. Where is Kane? Look at the size of this guy. Man, oh man. That's it. He's all man. He's all man. It's good. How many years have you been doing that? You've been Kane, one of the great characters, and how many? So how tall are you? You're 6 what? 6'8", and weigh what when you wrestle? About 3. Well, that's not bad. I'm not that far away. Ew. That's not good. You just ruined my day. 300. Well, all I know is, I guess there's a little acting involved, but when I see these guys, some of them like The Undertaker, right? And I see him, and he walks around the ring lifting a 300-pound guy over his shoulders like this. It may be acting, but there aren't too many. And then he throws him into the seats. It's pretty great. And he's done a fantastic job as mayor, Tennessee. And I don't know, I have thoughts that maybe you're going to run for governor of Tennessee sometime, because you have done a great job and you're very popular. Huh? Thank you very much. Good to have you. Thanks. Great to have you. Look great. Also a woman who's really talented, and she's been amazing. She just loves the campaign and loves the country, and she's brought her whole staff with her. She's a very important person politically, but she's actually free press in the true sense. She's free press, and she's really become a friend of a lot of great patriots in this country. Laura Loomer. Stand up, please, Laura. Great job you do. Great job. You want to try and have her on your side, right? Much better. No, she's fantastic. Thank you, Laura, and your whole staff. We appreciate you coming. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I said before, he really is. I've known his name for a long time. I watched him, and there was nobody like him in the history of this country. There was nobody like him, and beyond. Dan Gable, he's a legend from Iowa, but he's just a great person, and we awarded him the Medal of Freedom, along with his, that's right. We awarded Dan the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest award you can get. That's the civilian version of the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is much tougher because, they're usually gone or in very bad shape when they get the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Freedom is the civilian version, and it was a great honor to do it, and especially since your wife, Kathy, who's a truly great patriot of this country. I mean, I know all about Kathy, and she loves this country, and she hates seeing what's happening to it, and in particular because Kathy was with you, so I appreciate it. Kathy, please stand up, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Beautiful. This is a far more, I mean, when you think about it, what we've done, look at these crowds when everyone's talking about, oh, the weather is going to be so tough. It's far more than a campaign. This is not a campaign. It's the greatest political movement in the history of our country. It really is. This is not a normal situation, Jim. Right? This is not when people have, like DeSantis had a speech today where 9 people showed up. And he blamed the weather. Well, the weather's very tough. Together, we ended the NAFTA disaster, the worst trade deal ever made. We replaced it with the brand new USMCA, the best trade deal ever made by our country. I took on communist China like no administration in history, bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars, pouring right into our treasury. When no other president brought in 10 cents, they never got 10 cents. They never even asked China. It's such an unfair thing that's happened with China. And they take that money and they use it to rebuild their military and to build a military, the equal of ours, they say. I mean, some people say that. It's very sad, but we'll end that very soon. One of the things we're going to do in one of my platforms that people don't pick up as much as they should, though, but we're going to build an Iron Dome over our country because we want to protect ourselves. We're giving other countries, we give Iron Domes to other countries, but we don't do it to all. It'll all be made in the USA. They work. In the old days, Ronald Reagan wanted that too, but they didn't work at that time. So it was sort of a pipe dream a little bit. But maybe he was ahead of his time. We're going to do an Iron Dome because you need it now. You have too many people with too many bad weapons, and they work really well. You can ask Israel, you can ask other countries. It's amazing, but we have to have. We supply them to other countries. We don't supply them for ourselves. We're going to make it here. It's going to be all paid for in the United States, and it's going to be the best of them all. We have technology that's so incredible and so advanced, and we advanced it very much in my 4 years, but then they've done nothing with it. We're going to build an Iron Dome. It's a very big deal for me. Then I gave the farmers, out of all the money that was raised from China, $28 billion straight out of the tariffs that I took, and it's a large part of it came to the state of Iowa. And I told the farmers at the time, go out and buy more land, because I knew I was going to make a great deal with China, because we have all the leverage if you know what you're doing. We don't have leverage now because they don't understand leverage, but we have all the leverage with China. And I told our farmers to go out and buy more land and larger tractors. Do you remember? And I was right, because you've never done so well. And anything left over, like you see the fumes, it's the fumes of the Trump administration. That's the only thing that's keeping this Biden thing a little bit alive, because their numbers are no good except for the stock market. They have terrible inflation numbers still, but the stock market, that's the fumes of what we did, and the fact that I'm leading every poll. If I weren't leading every poll, the stock market would crash. And I'll tell you what, if we don't win, I believe you'll have a depression the likes of 1929, because there's no reason for this to happen. There's no reason what's going on right now. I think the fact that I'm leading in the polls is what's keeping the stock market up, because I stand for everything that the stock market should be standing for, and it's very important. And I think if you saw numbers go down, which you haven't seen, it's been a steady rise up. Everyone's waiting. When will it happen? Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But it's been like this right from the beginning. But that's what's keeping the stock market up, in my opinion. A lot of people are saying that. I stood up for Iowa ethanol and issued a historic rule declaring that E15 would be made available all year round. Ron DeSantis has spent his entire career trying to destroy ethanol. Now, a few weeks ago, he came out in favor of ethanol. Don't believe it. He just came out in favor of it. I will protect ethanol with 4 more years in the White House. It'll be totally protected. Not only was it protected, we gave you things that nobody thought were possible to get, and it really has been a big boon to ethanol and to Iowa and Nebraska, a couple of other states. I will also take immediate action to restore peace through strength. Very important term, peace through strength. We don't have to necessarily fight and die, lose our blood and lose our wealth, our children, our beautiful children, fighting in countries that nobody ever heard of. And we lose them, and there's no reason for it. You know, I was the only president, think of it, the only president that didn't get us into a war. 78 years, we didn't have any wars. We finished up a war. We beat ISIS 100%. We beat ISIS 100%, and we took off. We took it down. We took out Soleimani. We took out al-Baghdadi, the worst terrorist in history, probably. Just killed them. And they are no longer. We had Iran was broke. When I was president, Iran was broke. Now Iran has $250 billion, and now they're a nation of terror again. They didn't have any money to be a nation of terror. We would have had a deal if the election weren't rigged. We would have had a deal within the first 2 weeks with Iran, and they would have been very happy, but they wouldn't have had a nuclear weapon. Now they're 31 days away from having a nuclear weapon, and when they have a nuclear weapon, it's a much tougher negotiation. You watch. I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent World War III. You're very close to World War III, and a lot of you don't know that, but you're very close to World War III. We have an incompetent man negotiating with very smart people and very tough people, very mean people, and people that also have great strength and power and great weaponry also. I will once again appoint great Supreme Court justices to interpret the law as written. I gave you 3 great Supreme Court justices. They don't do me much, but they do the country a lot. They don't give me too much, but they give the country. I had to give up my taxes. I had to give up other. Nobody else would have had to do that, only me. But you know what? After looking at my taxes, that was the end of that. Probably should have given them 6 years ago and been done with it. But no, but I shouldn't have had to do that. But they've been good for our country. They have some big decisions in front right now. For instance, the election. You can't take somebody that's leading every single poll out for what? For doing nothing wrong, for doing absolutely, and very importantly, immunity. A president has to have immunity. Otherwise, a president isn't going to be able to function. If you don't have immunity, and I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about every president, you would never make a decision. Like when President Obama incorrectly sent a missile into an area and it killed many children and many people. They were looking for a terrorist. That would mean that his political opponent, sitting as president, if he were the next president, would absolutely indict him. And you wouldn't be able to do anything. You wouldn't be able to do anything. Biden, with his border, he would be indicted in 2 seconds. He's killing hundreds of thousands of people. He's allowing millions of people to destroy our country. And Afghanistan, the worst, most embarrassing day in the history of our country. If he doesn't have immunity, that means he'll be indicted. He'll be indicted for 10 other reasons. He'll be indicted for taking graft. He'll be indicted for taking money from China, from Ukraine, from Russia. Why did he take $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why? So he'll be indicted. The problem is you can't function if you're going to have to think about every single thing that's happening. Should I send a missile? Should I protect our country? If it doesn't work out, they'll indict me as soon as I leave office. A president of the United States has to be free and clear of mind. And you can't be worrying about something where you're doing the right thing, but if it doesn't work out, you're going to end up in prison. So a president of the United States must have immunity. And I'm not talking for myself. I'm talking for every president of the United States, or they will not be able to function. And they're going to make those decisions very soon, and I hope they do the right thing for the country. And I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. I'm also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officers throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. We're going to stop crime in our country. And we will take over the horribly run capital of our nation. Horribly run. We have a capital that we all love. Right now it's a rat-infested, graffiti-infested shithole. Horrible. Where people are being killed. This week, 3 people were shot. People are being killed just for walking into a park, which is now littered with tents and homeless who have to find places for them, but you cannot do that to our capital. And we're going to take it away from the mayor. And again, that doesn't make me popular there, but I have to say it. We have to run our capital incredibly. We have to take the graffiti off those magnificent statuary marble columns all over the city where they have swastikas printed on them, where they have the names of people, where they have hearts and people are in love and they write a heart. We're going to clean up our capital. We're going to knock out the slums. We have slums. We're going to move the people. And we're going to have the most beautiful capital in the world. And it's so important to be able to do that because our capital right now, when people, can you imagine foreign dignitaries coming into our capital and looking? The last time I was there for a courthouse on a Joe Biden impeachment thing, a Joe Biden indictment thing, a fake indictment, totally fake. I have the worst judge in the whole country. They said, if you got this judge, you have no chance. I got that judge. Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked. I got the right judge. I got one in New York that's beautiful. My wife's mother, who was an incredible woman, a great beauty inside and out, incredible woman, she just died. And my wife is very devastated by that. And I have a trial going on, a fake trial, a totally fake trial. And we asked the judge if I could take a day off for a funeral of my mother-in-law, who was very close to me also. And he said, no. Can you imagine? These are animals. Can you imagine that, Nigel? That wouldn't even happen in your country, right? He said, no, we can't have a day off. These are bad people. These are radical left lunatics that want to hurt me because they think it's going to hurt me at the polls so that Biden can win an election. I don't think the people are going to fall for it. But think of that. Can I have a day off? I'd like to go to the... So my wife is going to be standing at the funeral of her mother, who was a very special woman. It's not like... This was a very special, incredible woman. And so she's supposed to stand there alone, and I'll be there. One way or the other, I'll be there. But what a disgrace that a judge would not say, yes, we can take a day off. There's no rush. You know, all of these indictments, they could have done them 3 years ago. They saved them all for the election. Every one of them. I got one during Iowa. I got one during New Hampshire, the day before New Hampshire. I got every one of these. I have one, the same Shutkin, Judge Shutkin in Washington. The day before Super Tuesday, she wants her trial to start. The day before, then she says, oh, no, it has nothing to do with politics. Every one of them is the day before Iowa, the day before New Hampshire, the day before Super Tuesday. No, these are rigged indictments. This is a rigged Department of Justice where we have radical left, bad people, lunatics, and we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. So I'm going to that funeral, and this judge, whatever the hell he wants to do, let him do it. But we're going to that funeral. It's a disgrace. Can't take one day off. They could have had these trials. They could have had that trial 6 months ago. But they didn't want to have them 6 months ago. They could have had the other one, the boxers hoax. They could have had that 2 years ago. They waited till just, as soon as it was announced Trump is running and he's #1, they said, oh, let's go get him. They raided my home. Fourth Amendment, you can't do that. They raided my home, think of it. They raided Mar-a-Lago. I get a call, sir, your house is under raid by the FBI. Think of it. You're not allowed to do that. These are very bad people, very sick people. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate. And I can't believe that I have to say it, but I do, because it's such a big thing now. It's not believable that it's a big thing. Can you imagine saying it 10 years ago? Nobody would know what you're talking about. I will keep men out of women's sports. I will sign immediately. Men out of women's sports. I mean, I could ask Dan Gable, Dan, in your prime, do you think there was a woman that could out-wrestle you? I don't know. Tell yeah. He said, only his wife. Only Kathy. That's right. That's a perfect answer, actually. And I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, which is under siege, by the way. Which is under siege. As I did for 4 years, it's under siege. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. We will go to paper ballots. We will have one-day voting, and we will have a thing called voter ID. They don't want voter ID. Why would you not want voter ID? Only one reason, because you want to cheat. Why would you, you know, you have ID for everything, right? You go to the grocery store, you have ID. No matter what you do, you have ID, except for voting, which is your most important thing. No voter ID. When you went to the Democrat National Convention, they had like a board, like a billboard from outside with a chain, and it had pictures from all angles. It had they had everything. That was for the Democrat National Convention to get in. They had a thing that was terrible. The women were complaining it was so big you couldn't see their dress, okay? They'd spend all the time on their beautiful dress. And I said, you're looking at voter ID. But now we want voter ID, but they don't want voter ID because they can't cheat with voter ID. It's much harder. They'll find a way, but, you know, it makes it much harder. You have to make it as hard as possible because that's the only way they can win. That's the only way they can win. They can't win on policy. They can't win on open borders. They can't win on raising your taxes. They can't win on woke education and a woke military. We have a great military, by the way. When we took out ISIS, they did it so great. Raisin Cain, General Raisin Cain. You know that, sir. I said, what's your name? He said, Cain, sir. What's your first name? Raisin. I said, what? Raisin, sir. They call me Raisin. I said, your name is Raisin Cain? Yes, sir. I love you, General. You're the general I've been looking for, and he was great. He wiped them out so fast. He said, I'll get it done in 4 weeks, sir. But we wiped out ISIS very quickly. We have a great military, but you have to have the right people, not the people you see on television, not the person that's laying right now in a hospital room that was missing for 5 days, and he's running the war with Yemen on his laptop like a child, you know? My young son uses laptops to have little war games, right? Like all of the kids. He's running it, but they didn't even know where he was. What happened to him? But until then, Republicans have to win. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction, damage to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. There's nobody has done damage like this. I always say Jimmy Carter's the happiest man alive right now, and it's good because he's somewhat elderly, right? Somewhat. My wife went to the funeral of Rosalind 2 months ago. It was a beautiful funeral. But Jimmy Carter's a happy man right now because people are considering, compared to Biden, his presidency to be a brilliant presidency, right, Nigel? It's a brilliant, Jimmy Carter, by comparison, has a brilliant presidency, so he's happy. So if you want to save America from crooked Joe Biden, you must go caucus tomorrow. It's really the first step, really the first step. We got to do it. We got to do it big. You got to get out. You can't sit home. If you're sick as a dog, you say, darling, I got to make it. Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it, remember? If you're sick, if you're just so sick you can't, darling, I don't think, get up. Get up. You get up, you're voting. Yes, darling, because ultimately we know who calls the shots, right? Right, Polly? So you be safe and all, you're going to be safe. And again, all indoors, it's going to be all indoors, but you got to get up, you got to vote, because it has nothing to do with anything but taking our nation back, and that's the biggest thing there is. So arrive no later than 6:30, and as I said earlier, the details are ia.donaldjtrump.com. So in conclusion, we're having a good time though, aren't we? Yeah, it's just a good time. I got Billy Long up here to show us that. From Fort Dodge to Cedar Rapids, from Sioux City to Waterloo, and from Davenport to Des Moines to right here in Indianola, we stand on the shoulders of generations of Iowa patriots who tamed the wilderness, braved the elements, tilled the soil, worked the fields, built the factories, and poured out their sweat, blood, tears to make this country the greatest nation in the history of the world. That's what happened. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers, get them out of our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that truly hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House on November 5th, 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. You will be forgotten no longer. You weren't forgotten during 4 years of President Trump. We will love our country. We will take care of our country. We will pray to God for our strength and for our liberty. We will pray for God, and we will be with God, because we are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Iowa. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.